Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Lady K Chat, a podcast that is designed for men and women to become better versions of themselves, which is broadcast every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Various subjects will be spoken upon, such as relationships, health and wellness, personal development, wealth building, children, and so much more. She is a two-time Amazon best-selling author, an international speaker, and life coach. She is Lady K. And now for your host, Lady K. Viewer discretion is advised. This podcast contains material and language that may be disturbing and not suitable for all audiences.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lady K Chat podcast. You are with your favorite host, Lady K, and I just want to welcome you and thank you for joining me today. And today is Speak Up 2. See, last week I did speak up, but we're going to speak up even more. And before I even introduce my guest, I'm just going to let you know that I'm continuing to speak about domestic violence because we need this awareness. We need the community to know that there's safe places that they can get help, and let the community know that they're not by yourself. And this is why I specifically invited this special guest today. Oh my God. She is with an organization that helps women, men, and children all throughout the United States. And for those who don't know, they're called Women Resources. And I am going to allow her to explain who they are and what they do in the community. But before I do, I just want to give this statistics to let you know that 90% of people that are abused, they are abused by someone that they know, and 20% of children that are abused, 9 times out of 10, they don't tell, and they tend to forget, or later in life, they may be triggered on what happened to them. And we need these numbers to go down, and it takes a village to do so. So I'm going to introduce my guest for today, Miss Jane. Please bear with me, guys. Jane Dovidio-Gagliardo. Did I get it right, Jane?
Yep, very good. Yay!
Thank you, because listen, I practice so hard so I don't butcher your name, because I hate when my name is butchered. But welcome, Jane. I'm so happy that you are here with me today. Again, I just want to educate the audience about domestic violence. Especially right now, the numbers are high. And you know why? Because the children are home with their abusers. The wives are home with their abusers. Whoever it may be, they're just home with their abusers right now because due to the pandemic. And this really touched my heart. I have a soft spot for this area because many people, I just find out, I thought it was just maybe 1 or 2, but now I'm finding out that more people in my family have been, in the situation. And I said, no, I can't just sit here and not say anything. So we have to do this together. And again, I just want you to share with the people, Jane, that who is Women Resources?
So first, I want to thank you for having me. I always encourage any platform that can be used to bring this horrible statistics and abuse awareness to the public, because I think so often it is people either are in denial or they put their head in the sand, and they always think it's either low-income people. It never happens in their family, and that is just not true. So I volunteer for Women's Resources of Monroe County. I am a hotline volunteer, which means I'm on a crisis line, usually from 5 in the evening till 9 in the morning.
Wow.
We are a 24/7 hotline. We are never closed. The office might be closed, but our lines are always open for anyone, no matter where you're at, women, children, men, who are abused or find themselves in situations that are dangerous, particularly domestic violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking. All of those things are certainly under the same umbrella, for sure. So Women's Resources of Monroe County has a hotline, and I'll be glad to share that number with you at the end of the show. But also we provide counseling, sheltering, legal advocacy if needed, children advocacy, children counseling. We donate food and clothing, and when you're in the shelter, we provide all food, all of anything you need other than medicine. So our shelters are tucked away in certain areas. Of course, we can't divulge that because of the safety of the victims that live there. But it is a 30-day stay. So we provide everything for you. And I always encourage any victim that I do shelter to take advantage through those 30 days of anything that we offer, because it is free. I mean, you pay nothing. You pay nothing. Okay. So what better way than to, try to find that light at the end of the tunnel for yourself and your children. And unfortunately, you are correct. We are filled to the brim. We are housing some people now in different areas that we've never had to do before. First of all, because of the high intensity of need, but also the pandemic. I mean, that has affected everyone. I don't care what organization you're in some way, shape, or form, the pandemic has affected everybody. So with that said, again, I want to thank you for providing a platform to bring awareness to a very much needed, but very uncomfortable talk of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Right. This conversation is so much needed, Jane. Just like you said, it may be uncomfortable, but we can no longer just mask up and hide up all the things that's out there. Like these predators, they need to stay in their lane, because we need to protect the people that's being affected. And it is affected a lot. And it hurts my heart, especially when it comes to the babies. Not to say that I don't care about the men or the women. I do. But a child is so innocent. And for you to take the innocence of a child, it just does something to my heart, especially in the sexual assault realm, so
yes. And it affects them for the rest of their lives,
right?
Although there's fantastic counseling and ways to deal with it and help them get through the trauma of it, right? All through their life there will be triggers. There will be a smell, a song, a color, right? Laying on the floor and picturing a room that they were in that had happened. So all through their lives, this will affect them. So we as a society, we must step up to the plate. We must make sure that the women, the children, and men who are in these situations know that there is help. Now, we could talk about statistics, and statistics are great, but let's get down to the down and dirty of it. The down and dirty of it is it happens in our homes. It happens next door, happens in our towns. Yes. Okay. So if we're not aware and we don't bring the proper authorities in on it, then we're never going to accomplish anything. We're going to be like a hamster on a wheel, right? Right. And I have to tell you, here in Monroe County, the police department, the sheriff's department, detectives, the judges, they are all on the same page of trying to eradicate, domestic violence and sexual assault. In the town I live in, there is a college, so we have a high incidence of sexual assault. Right. And it's unfortunate that, with some of the dating drugs out there, they're not aware that anything happened until way after the fact, but it's okay. What I want to say to them is report it anyway. Report it anyway with the detectives and the evidence that can be proven through just simple tests. Right. And
I tell people all the time, Jane, to leave a paper trail, because at least you have something. Without a paper trail, there's nothing, and I understand it's hard, but you want to leave a paper trail.
Right. And, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've had people, and this is kind of off the subject, but this new vaccine, they keep saying, oh, they're going to inject you. They're going to put a tracker in you, blah, blah, blah. And I always say to them, do you have a phone? If you have a phone, right, you can be tracked. Right. Okay? You can be tracked by your abuser. You can be tracked by the government. Yeah, right. You can be tracked by just about anybody. So I find it a bit absurd that they even, think that that's not a possibility, because
Right.
it really, I mean, I have seen abusers put trackers on a car
Right.
of their victim.
Right.
And it's very easily done because of all the technology that we do have. We can use it to our advantage, but abusers also use it to their advantage to keep track of their victims.
Absolutely. And I actually had a friend that experienced that with her husband. And I told her, I said, listen, that is not normal behavior. No. And the way his erratic behavior is, he has not dealt with the inner little boy in him, and he has other demons that he's fighting with. So that right there, that's so scary, just to have another human being, that's supposed to be your spouse, that's supposed to love you to death do you part, do something like that. And then unfortunately, there's a lot of women in this situation.
Yes.
And sometimes I can't even just blame them, just sometimes where they just leave with nothing. To be honest, that's like the best sometimes. Just leave everything behind. Everything. Yes, I understand you might have that big 4 walls and 4 or 5 house and the garage and, everything and the lifestyle he provide, but it's not worth your sanity. Your mental health is so important. So whoever is watching today, I'm here to tell you today, you are very important. Do not let that person put that restriction over your life.
Exactly.
So I'm going to move a little bit forward. So I know, Jane, I heard you how Women Resources, what they do. I'm also going to ask you what in other ways, how they serve the community. But before you answer that question, I want my audience to hear exactly what you did one time at a board meeting that you shared with me, because people think that people are not out there speaking. And yes, someone like you, just to pivot a point, especially in a predominantly male area, because they don't understand. Right. And I think they need to hear what you said, because I thought it was so powerful by you sharing that at that board meeting. So go ahead, please share.
So I was at a board meeting, and there was parking issues within our town, and there were quite a few business people there, very concerned about their employees leaving work at 5 o'clock. And I don't have to tell you, it gets dark here at 4:30 in the winter. And these are dentists, doctors, store owners. And of course, their employees are women. And they wanted to park them like 3 blocks away. And so store owner said, can you provide more lighting in the parking lots? And one of the board members was like, why? I mean, we don't have any crime here. I nearly fell off my chair. And if you know me, I have a real tough time keeping my mouth shut about a lot of things. I was a bit speechless for a moment.
Right.
Only a moment. Okay. Only a moment. So I raised my hand and I said, are you kidding me? Where are you, like an ostrich with your head in the sand? First of all, we live in a college town. Second of all, these are women who are going to be walking 3 blocks away in the dark. I love my town. I've lived here over 40 years. But yeah, we need to make sure these women have more lighting, or hire a security company to make sure that where they're walking to is safe. The reaction of several of the board members just looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, we can't understand where this is coming from. We've not seen crime. Thank goodness the chief of police, she was there, and she kind of backed me. And she said, oh yeah, there's a lot of things that happen here at 3 o'clock in the morning you are not aware of.
Right, because you're sleeping in your big house.
Right. I mean, granted, they're not walking in the dark at 3 in the morning. That doesn't mean their body wouldn't be found until 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going to a dark place here only because it happens. These women and men as well. I mean, men have been jumped, men have been beaten up, that kind of thing. I saw it happen several times in Stroudsburg. So I just feel that I felt that I needed to hone in. And so I started throwing some statistics at them. I started explaining to them why more lighting or escorting or more security was needed. And their whole goal was to make sure, and this just pushed me to the end, to make sure that the customers were able to get the close parking so that they could shop.
Wow. What about the
So,
employees?
right. So you're going to sacrifice the bottom line for a possible rape or, robbery of these people trying to get to their car to go home to their family. Well, I'll make a long story short, it was put on the back burner. The employees are still parking where they should be. And I think that, and then of course the pandemic came in and that just everything stalled. So I'm planning on definitely being at that next meeting when this subject arises again, because I think, look, as human beings, as women, we need to hold some people's feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
To make sure that safety and accountability is done.
Absolutely. Jane, I agree with you 110%. I'm just going to back up a little bit. A lot of people so focus on their customers, but you forget, in order for your customers to get any type of service, it's through your employees.
Right.
So employers, y'all got to take key to this. And, sometimes too, that just makes me so annoyed. And this is why people want to, how come our retention rate is so high? Because you don't care about your employees.
Exactly.
And something in this matter. So Jane, I just want to say thank you. I commend you for speaking up. There's a reason why you got that fire in you, because you were just a fireable.
Well, you know what? I've been fighting all my life for women's rights, for injustices, and I really do feel until the last breath of my body is gone, I will continue to do so. Even if I stand alone, I will do that, only because I find, and people are not aware. And if you and I, this show doesn't bring awareness to people, they're never going to know, because we go on with our lives, our happy little lives. We, do our little thing, and we don't look around. We don't, we don't say, well, wait a minute, maybe there are people in need here. Maybe there is more lighting that's needed. Maybe we need to buy an extra turkey and give it to the pantry. You know what I'm saying? I have a saying in my life: if I have a little, I give a little. If I have a lot, I give a lot. You always must give. You always give back. You've got to give back. You've got to give back.
My mother always told me, and I grew up watching my mother transition us from the Bronx, New York. And, back in the 80s, it wasn't the greatest. Into Long Island. And even when we made that transition, she always say, never forget, one, where you came from. Two, always give back to your community. So even now, I still have the serving heart. Still, and I don't have to have my name and stuff, but there are things that I do out there to support people.
Yes.
I don't need my names out there, because God sees me, and the people that I'm working with, they see me. So that's the main thing that's important. So I know, Jane, I asked you to share that moment, but can you also tell me, how do Women Resource also serve the community?
Yes. So Women's Resources does many things for the community. We do go into the schools. We speak to the high school, junior high kids in regard to personal space, abuse, if anything's going on at home, how to keep your hands to yourself. There's other ways of expressing anger. There's other ways of expressing how you speak to someone, because really that's where we need to start.
Yes.
And, not that I condone nor do I defend abusers, but we have to look at the big picture here. We have to look at, where did they learn to be this way? Okay. Particularly sexual abuse.
Yes.
If someone is sexually abusing a child, I would say 9 out of 10 times they themselves were abused in some way. Okay. So as I said, I don't condone it, but this is you are taught this. You are shown this abuse. This is not something you're born with. It's no different than discrimination, than hate, than anything. People who don't believe in God. I mean, it's all the same theory. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I think when we go into the schools now and talking to younger folks, it makes them aware of, oh my gosh, my uncle does that, or my dad does that, or my brother does that. And, I don't want to be like that. How can I not be like that? And they will come and talk to us afterwards. Okay. So that's one of the things we do. The other thing we do is we have a store. It's called Echo. It's on Ann Street in Stroudsburg. These are all volunteers. They sell secondhand clothing, beautiful clothing, pocketbooks, shoes, accessories. 100% of those proceeds goes to our shelter to feed and clothe the women, children, and men who are in need. Okay, at no cost to them whatsoever. They are a huge component of our financial backbone of women's resources. They bring in hundreds and thousands of dollars a year.
Wow.
100% of that goes to us. Much needed. Because when you have 62 people in a shelter and you are clothing and feeding them, providing internet, providing services,
heat.
I don't have to tell you. Yeah, heat, electric,
right?
TVs, and all of those things. I don't have to tell you. Just running a home, sometimes you have tough time balancing that budget, right? So our budget is huge, and so we're always thankful to Echo and the ladies there that volunteer. They do not get paid. They are there. I think. Well, right now they're closed because of the pandemic. So I'm not sure what the new hours will be. But we, we're not taking clothing now, but we always take clothing from, people whose parents passed away, that kind of thing. And everything is cleaned and laundried and ironed, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
So these are donated clothes that go to the store to get sold, and the proceed goes to Women Resources to provide services for the family needs of domestic violence.
Yes. And
I love that.
Yeah, no one takes a paycheck.
That's awesome. And then the fact that the key thing too, you said these ladies volunteer their time. See, people, I need you to understand what Jane just said, and I just reiterate that there are still people out there that have a heart and that care. I hope you are receiving this, because that just made me happy. Because a lot of people feel like, well, things are changing. Yes, don't get me wrong, things are changing, but there still are people who have the gracious heart and they still want to serve. So I thank for those who want to serve. Those are the people that I just commend a lot, because they don't get the recognition that they deserve. So I want to say to those two young ladies, thank you for serving, and thank you for anyone else that's a part of Women Resources. And Jane, thank you for sharing this information. I think it's so vital. And my last question to you is like, what brought out this fight in you? Please tell my audience your story. What made you want to serve and give, to the people that's in domestic violence situations?
Well, I grew up in a very abusive home. Okay, my father was a classic textbook abuser. He beat my mother all the time, beat my brothers. And I was always the one. I have 3 brothers, and I was the only girl, but I was always the one. I would hide them under the bed. You could almost, anyone who lived in this type of environment, I could look out the window when he came home from work, and I knew exactly what kind of evening we were going to have. You could tell by his demeanor, the way he walked. He would come in, dinner was never right. My mother's hair didn't look good. It was any excuse for him to beat her and then blame her because she enraged him. And I really don't like to say this, but it's true. I took care of my father till he died. Didn't love him. I don't miss him. But I'm a Christian. And so you do what you need to do. Honor thy mother and thy father. It says nothing about loving them.
Right.
My mother, unfortunately, would not leave him. Back in those days, there was no shelters. Right. My grandma, we were Catholic. My grandma would tell her, whoa, Elizabeth, if you leave him and you divorce him and you die, you're going to go to limbo. You're never going to go to heaven.
Wow.
So my mother eventually turned to drugs to escape her marriage, and became an addict to prescription drugs and anything else she could get her hands on. I would come home, find her foaming from the mouth, the ears, call an ambulance, I mean, it's a lot of this story. So let me back up a minute. I have multiple sclerosis. I worked for a large pharmaceutical company for 10 years and they fired me. I knew that they fired me because of my disability. So I fought them. It took me 6 years to get them into federal court. And we won a week of a trial with a 12-person jury. And they found that, yes, I was in fact fired because of my disability. The fight in me comes from growing up in an abusive home, because I fought for my mother. I'd beat my father with a broom. I would try to grab the rifle out of his hands when he had it in her mouth. And I can go on and on.
And Jane, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Did your father once lay hands on you?
He tried.
Okay.
I kicked him in the private area.
Okay.
And he never touched me again. And later on in years, as I was married with children, he would always say to me, "You scare me." And I would say to him, "Be very scared. Be very scared, because I'm not going to take your crap." And he knew it. My oldest brother, on the other hand, always looked for his approval. But interesting enough, none of my brothers became abusers.
Thank you, Jesus.
Myself, I married very young. My husband came from a very similar background. We decided to raise our children in a very caring and loving home. So we broke the cycle as well. And you can do it.
Right.
But you've got to be aware that you came from a background. What you learned from everything in your life, good, bad, or ugly, is how not to be that.
Right.
Right? So right there, you're starting to change the cycle.
Absolutely. Jane, I thank you so much for sharing this information. This was very vital. But I'm going to say two things that I learned just by hearing your story. One thing, you're able to identify abusers, or you can see the symptoms because of, like you said, you was able to identify what type of night you was going to have based on how your father, and you just looking out the window. So I think a great skill to have now, because when you're out in the community and you see a woman or maybe a child and you see the way they're acting, you can pick up the sign. So I think that's a wonderful skill to have, because a lot of people lack those skills.
Or ignore them.
Right. Or ignore them. Absolutely. Yeah. Or I want to say this too. They ignore them because they're not equipped and trained. So some people I don't blame, but for the fighters, this is where we come.
Yeah. And they don't want to get, they don't want to get involved. Well, it's none of my business. Damn, it is your business. It is your business. You are a human. They are human. Absolutely. And as human beings, it is our business to take care of the unfortunate, the ones that need help. It's our God-given duty to do it.
Let me tell you something. Right now, I have a family member going through this, and I am kicking and screaming for them. I am their advocate for them, because I'm like, no, I'm not going to just sit here and y'all say whatever. No, I want to stand here and be there for them. But a lot of people in the family don't have that drive like I do. And I don't care. I'm not looking at them. I'm just looking at the part that I'm playing, because that's what matters. Like we said, this is my God-given, it's in me, but it's in me. I just can't sit still and do nothing. But again, Jane, all this information was very helpful. If you can please provide that hotline phone number.
Yes. Can I say one more thing, though?
Yes.
I just want to say, with this journey that I went on with this company, a book was written about me in regard to this case, which ended up being about my life. And I would hope everyone would pick up a copy. The name of the book is Call to Witness. By Sherry Blackman. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. And a percentage of all the proceeds of the book goes to MS research, multiple sclerosis research.
So you take no profit in it.
I've always given it away. So
I got
it would be nice. We've actually had several producers reach out to us to get it on the big screen, and then pandemic happened. So, that's all been put on the back burner as well, unfortunately. But the fact is, people with disabilities have a voice.
Yes.
You are not a throwaway employee. You are functional. You have a lot to offer to society. Do not lay down and just let them beat you up, because it's not right, and it's not who you should be.
Absolutely.
So speak up for yourself, speak up for a coworker, anyone that you think is in need. And so that brings me to why I have the passion I have for this work. I'm a state certified advocate and counselor, and I will fight for, I've been protesting since the 60s, women's rights, abortion, a woman's right to choose, civil rights. I mean, I went to Newark in March. My father beat the crap out of me when I came home, but I did it anyway because it was important to have voices heard. And so I've been protesting all my life, and I will continue to do so. My daughter-in-laws tease me, and they say, when I call my mother-in-law to see if she can babysit, my mother-in-law doesn't say, let me see if I'm going to go to bingo that night. My mother-in-law says, let me see if I have a protest that night.
Right. But that's powerful. That's a powerful, strong woman right there. And again, Jane, I appreciate you. So thank you for your service in the community. Thank you for your continuous fight. And just thank you for your presence. And and one more, the hotline.
So the Monroe County hotline number is 570-421-4200. There's also a national hotline number, and forgive me, I do not have that.
No, it's okay, because it is displaying right now as we're speaking.
Okay.
The national phone number is speaking, but it's great to also have the local line. So again, I thank you so much, everyone. I hope you gained something from the show today. Show someone, tell someone, forward it, like it, comment. Thank you so much for watching. Continue to follow us at the Lady K Chat Podcast here on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can also reach on our website at www.ladykenterprisesinc.com, and K is spelled Kay. Again, I'm going to repeat it for you: www.ladykenterprisesinc.com. And everyone, you have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lady K.